In the 6 seconds of the assassination, time literally stopped. How do you think the museum best represents that moment and gives a sense of the intensity that Americans endured during that stark weekend?
Well, it is interesting that a subject matter as big and all-encompassing as the Kennedy assassination really comes down to 6 to 8 seconds of American history. I tell people all the time that I'm not much of a historian because I'm only an expert at 6 seconds of American history. But the thing is that within that moment, something shifted. There's a photograph upstairs that I really, really like. It's one that doesn't get published very often. It was taken on the other side of the Triple Underpass.
Okay.
And it shows the Texas School Book Depository. You can see the Hertz sign on top, and the sign still reads 12:30. The minute hasn't even shifted from the 26 seconds that encompass the Zapruder film. You see the limousine emerging from beneath the Triple Underpass, coming even with Chief Curry's car, and we know from history that the driver, Bill Greer, is talking to Curry, getting directions to Parkland Hospital. But what's fascinating is what's in the foreground. You have that little stretch leading to the Stemmons on-ramp lined with people, and there's kids, and they're waving. And the motorcycle officers in front are riding along because they haven't heard what has just happened. It's like, I love that picture because it captures the instant that it all shifted. And you have people in that photograph who know the horror of it's occurred inside that limousine. The Secret Service follow-up car, you can see Hickey start to bring up that automatic, semi-automatic. But you have all these people and the cops in front who don't know. And it I don't know, for me, it has a certain amount of symbolic significance because it represents that moment when everything shifted. How do you attach that kind of symbolic significance to just a few seconds of history? I mean, we do it by leading up to that journey. You know, you make this very deliberate path through the museum, going through the early 60s, the Kennedy presidency, the Cold War, the Civil Rights Movement, the space race, all the things that kind of defined his administration, the new frontier. And then you get to that one moment. There's one part in the exhibit where the walls shift to gray. And that is representative of that moment. And then from that point on in the exhibit, and this is a kind of a subtle tweak of the architecture that I think helps to define the story. The exhibit, which has led you on a very deliberate path right up into those gray walls, suddenly kind of explodes into this controlled chaos where there are multiple avenues for exploration. You know, you reach the window, the assassinations occurred, and at that point you can follow eyewitness accounts directly to the investigations. You can follow Lee Harvey Oswald to Oak Cliff and deal with the shooting of Oswald by Jack Ruby. You can follow the path of memorialization that takes you to the funeral and the national and global responses to the assassination. There is this moment of deliberate disorientation that was built into the architecture of the exhibit space, which is amazing considering they were navigating a 1901 warehouse using the structural columns as the dividers for the exhibit panels.
It's extraordinary.
It was a brilliant design, and I think it shifts, it shows the control and the path that you're on up until that moment, and then everything opens up and becomes much, much broader. And what I love about those gray walls is that instead of doing what you might expect, which is having these large images of the Zapruder film to sort of emphasize the enormity of the moment, instead the designers went the opposite way and provide this kind of series of smaller than comfortable still frames. And the reason for that is that we're looking at the assassination not as a historic event at that moment. We're looking at the assassination as it was experienced by people out there, specifically looking at the Abraham Zapruder frames as Zapruder saw it, in black and white, not in color, but looking through the viewfinder of his camera. And so there is a kind of a strange intimacy about that moment that I think brings people closer to the true significance of what it was like to have lived through that experience. And then everything kind of just explodes from there.